fluorescent lights of Chicago Memorial's emergency room buzzed with the same relentless frequency as the migraine building behind Emma Chen's eyes. 3 a.m., and the night shift stretched ahead like an endless tunnel. Her scrubs, pale blue and wrinkled from 14 hours of continuous wear, carried the faint copper smell of blood that no amount of industrial detergent could fully erase. Trauma incoming, the intercom crackled. GSW to the chest, male, 30s, critical condition, ETA 2 minutes. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Emma's hands moved automatically, prepping the trauma bay. Gauze, sutures, IV lines. The choreography of emergency medicine had become second nature after 8 years of nights like this. 8 years of saving strangers while her own life remained perpetually on hold. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She didn't need to check it to know it was another text from the debt collector. The third one today. Tommy's medical bills from the car accident had been crushing enough when he was alive. Now, 6 months after burying her husband, she was drowning in debt for a man who'd made her life miserable for 3 years of marriage. The ambulance bay doors burst open. 2 paramedics rushed in with a gurney, their faces grim. The patient was massive, easily 6'4", his expensive suit soaked through with blood. His dark hair was matted with sweat, his face contorted in pain, but even semi-conscious. He carried an aura of controlled violence that made Emma's instincts scream danger. No ID, the lead paramedic said, rattling off vitals. Found him in an alley off Michigan Avenue, single gunshot wound, upper right chest. He's lost a lot of blood. Kept asking for no police, no records. Emma's supervisor, Dr. Patricia Hayes, appeared beside her. We have to report gunshot wounds, Emma. Protocol. Then he dies before the police get here, Emma said, already cutting away the man's shirt. Her hands stilled. There, just above his heart, was a scar. Not from tonight's wound, but old, faded, shaped like a crescent moon. Her breath caught in her throat. 15 years ago. A different emergency room. A different version of herself. No, it can't be him. Emma, Dr. Hayes snapped. Focus. She blinked, forcing herself back to the present. The man's eyes flickered open for just a moment, dark brown, almost black, filled with pain and something else. Recognition? His lips moved. Angel, he whispered, so quietly she almost missed it. Then his eyes rolled back. He's crashing, Emma shouted. Get me the crash cart. The next 20 minutes blurred into organized chaos. Emma's hands moved with practiced precision, following Dr. Hayes' orders, keeping this stranger alive through sheer stubborn will. When they finally stabilized him enough for surgery, when the OR team wheeled him away, Emma stood in the trauma bay surrounded by bloody gauze and discarded equipment, her entire body shaking. Dr. Hayes touched her shoulder. Good work. You saved his life. Emma nodded mutely. She'd saved his life twice now. The first time, she'd been 17 years old. Section 2. The fateful encounter. Emma couldn't go home after her shift ended at 7 a.m. Instead, she found herself in the hospital chapel, a small room that smelled of lemon polish and desperate prayers. She sat in the back pew, staring at nothing, remembering everything. 15 years ago, Chicago, Chinatown. She'd been walking home from her after-school job at her uncle's restaurant, cutting through an alley because it was faster, and she had calculus homework due the next day. That's when she'd found him. A boy, maybe 18 or 19, bleeding out on the dirty concrete. His white shirt was soaked red, a knife wound just above his heart still seeping. His eyes were open, staring at the night sky, already glazing over. Emma had frozen. She was 17. She knew basic first aid from volunteering at the community center. But this was beyond anything she'd ever seen. Call 911, call for help, run. But his hand had moved, reaching toward her with desperate weakness. Please, he'd whispered in Mandarin. Can't go to hospital. They'll finish me. You'll die, she'd said, her voice shaking. Already dead. His smile was bitter. Just don't know it yet. Something in his eyes had broken through her fear. Not the violence, but the resignation. The way someone looked when they'd given up on being saved. Emma had made a decision that would haunt her for 15 years. She dragged him into the basement of an abandoned building 2 doors down. She'd used her jacket to stanch the bleeding. She'd run to a 24-hour pharmacy and stolen supplies. Antiseptic, gauze, surgical tape, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold the basket. For 3 days, she'd kept him alive in that basement. She'd skipped school, lied to her parents, stolen food from her uncle's restaurant. She'd cleaned his wound, changed his bandages, and held his hand while fever made him delirious. He told her things during those fevered nights. About his father, Vincent something, a name spoken with equal parts love and fear. About a life he didn't choose, a world of violence he'd been born into. About wanting to be someone different, someone better. "What's your name?" she'd asked on the 3rd night, when the fever finally broke. "Doesn't matter," he'd said, his dark eyes clear for the first time. "You shouldn't know. Safer if you forget me. I saved your life. I think I deserve a name." He'd smiled, a real smile that transformed his face from dangerous to heartbreaking. "Call me Dante. It's not my real name, but it's who I want to be. Like the poet? Like the man who walked through hell and came out the other side." On the 4th day, she'd arrived at 19, at the basement to find him gone. No note, no goodbye, just a crescent moon-shaped scar on her memory and a first aid kit she'd stolen that she kept hidden in her closet for years. Now, 15 years later, that same scar was upstairs in the ICU, attached to a man who'd become something far more dangerous than the bleeding boy she'd saved. Emma's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "He's asking for you. Room 347. Come alone. M." Every rational part of Emma's brain screamed to ignore it, to go home, shower, sleep, and forget she'd ever seen that scar, but she'd never been good at listening to the rational parts of herself. She took the elevator to the 3rd floor. Section 3, the recognition room. 347 was at the end of the corridor, isolated from the other ICU rooms. 2 men in expensive suits stood outside the door, their builds suggesting violence held barely in check. They watched her approach with the dead-eyed assessment of professional security. "Emma Chen," the taller one, asked. "ID, please." She showed him her hospital badge with trembling hands. He checked it against his phone, then nodded. "He's been asking for you for the past hour. Wouldn't let anyone else touch him." The man's expression softened slightly. "Thank you for saving his life." Emma pushed open the door. The room was dim, curtains drawn against the morning sun. Medical equipment beeped steadily, monitoring vitals that were surprisingly strong for someone who'd been dying 6 hours ago. And in the bed, propped up against pillows, was Dante. Except that wasn't his name. She knew that now. He looked older, harder. The boy who'd smiled at her in that basement had been replaced by a man carved from violence and power. But his eyes, those dark eyes that had looked at her with desperate gratitude 15 years ago, were the same. "Angel," he said softly. "You came. Don't call me that." Emma stayed by the door, her hand on the handle, ready to flee. "I'm not your angel. I'm your nurse. And you need to explain why you have 2 armed men outside your door and why the police haven't been notified about your gunshot wound." "Because I own this hospital," he said it matter-of-factly, like commenting on the weather. "Donated $15 million last year for the new pediatric wing. That buys certain courtesies." Emma's stomach dropped. "Who are you?" "You know who I am." His hand moved to the scar above his heart, the old one, the one she'd made while stitching him up with stolen supplies and shaking hands. "You saved me once before. That basement in Chinatown, behind your uncle's restaurant. You were 17, I was 18. You should have let me die. I was a stupid kid who didn't know better. You were an angel who saw someone worth saving when everyone else saw a criminal." He tried to sit up, winced, fell back against the pillows. "Emma Chen, daughter of David and Lin Chen, immigrants from Guangzhou. You graduated top of your nursing class at Northwestern. You married Thomas Wright 3 years ago. He died 6 months ago in a drunk driving accident. You're drowning in medical debt that wasn't your fault. You work 70-hour weeks trying to pay it off, and you're still saving people who don't deserve it." Cold horror washed through Emma. "You've been watching me. I've been protecting you." His voice was firm. "If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. For 15 years, Emma, ever since you saved my life, I've made sure nothing truly bad happened to you. The scholarship that appeared out of nowhere for nursing school? Me. The job offer here at Chicago Memorial when you were drowning in applications? Me. The drunk driver who hit your husband's car. He's serving 20 years instead of the 5 he should have gotten. Also me. You had no right. I had every right. He tried to sit up again, and this time succeeded despite the obvious pain. You gave me my life back. Everything I've built, everything I've become. It's because you saw something worth saving in that alley. So yes, I've watched over you, kept you safe, made sure the world treated you better than it treated me. Emma's hands were shaking. What's your real name? Dominic Castellano. He said it like a confession. My father was Vincent Castellano. You might have heard of him. She had. Everyone in Chicago had. Vincent Castellano had been one of the most powerful organized crime bosses in the Midwest, until the FBI brought him down 8 years ago. He died in prison of a heart attack. So you're exactly what you think I am. Dominic's smile was bitter. I'm the crown prince of Chicago's underworld, the man who took his father's empire and made it bigger, quieter, more dangerous. I'm the reason people whisper in restaurants, the reason certain businesses stay open and others burn down. I'm everything you should run from, Emma. Then I'm running. She turned toward the door. Your debt, he said quietly. $643,000 in medical bills from your husband's accident, plus another $87,000 in credit cards he maxed out that you didn't know about. The collectors call you 5 times a day. You sold your wedding ring last month. You're 3 weeks from eviction. Emma froze, her hand on the doorknob. It's gone, Dominic continued. All of it, paid in full as of 2 hours ago. You owe nothing. You're free. She turned slowly. I don't want your money. Too late. It's done. He met her eyes steadily. Consider it payment for saving my life. Twice now. I didn't save you for payment. I saved you because you were dying and I couldn't walk away. I know. Something in his expression softened. That's exactly why you're different. That's exactly why I've spent 15 years making sure you were protected. Because you're good, Emma. Actually, genuinely good. And this world destroys good people. I should know. I'm usually the one destroying them. The machines beeped steadily in the silence. Emma stared at this man who'd been a boy she'd saved, who'd become a monster who thought protecting her gave him ownership. What do you want from me? She asked finally. Nothing you're not willing to give. Dominic's voice was careful, measured. But I need you to understand something. The men who shot me tonight, they know I came here. They know I'm vulnerable. And they know the best way to hurt me is through the people I protect. Emma's blood ran cold. You painted a target on me. The target's been there for 15 years, he corrected. I just made it visible. So now you have a choice. Walk away, go back to your life, and pretend tonight never happened. I'll keep you safe from a distance like I always have. Or, he paused. Or you stay. You help me recover. You let me protect you properly. And maybe, just maybe, you give me a chance to prove I'm still the person you saw worth saving all those years ago. You're not that person anymore. No, Dominic agreed. I'm harder, colder, more dangerous. I've done things that would make you sick. But Emma, the part of me that wanted to be better, that wanted to walk through hell and come out the other side, that part only exists because you believed it could. Emma looked at him, really looked, past the expensive hospital room and the guards outside and the blood money that had paid her debts. She looked for the 18-year-old boy who'd smiled at her in a basement and called himself Dante. She found him, buried deep beneath layers of violence and power, but still there, still alive. I need to think, she said. Take all the time you need. But Emma? His eyes held hers. Whatever you decide, I'm not letting anything happen to you. That's not negotiable. You're mine to protect whether you want to be or not. The possessiveness in his voice should have terrified her. Instead, some traitorous part of her responded to the absolute certainty, the promise of being protected after years of being alone. She left without answering, but she knew she'd come back. Because Dominic Castellano was right about one thing. She'd never been good at walking away from people who needed saving, even when the person who needed saving most was herself. Emma didn't go home. She couldn't. Instead, she sat in her car in the hospital parking garage for 2 hours, watching the sunrise paint Chicago's skyline in shades of amber and gold, and tried to understand how her life had derailed so completely in a single night. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Miss Chen. The voice was professional, female, efficient. My name is Sophia Marchetti. I work for Mr. Castellano. He asked me to inform you that your apartment building experienced a gas leak this morning. Everyone's been evacuated. The building will be uninhabitable for at least 3 weeks while repairs are made. Emma's hands tightened on the steering wheel. That's convenient timing. Mr. Castellano had nothing to do with it. Sophia's tone suggested she was lying. However, he's arranged temporary housing for you. A car is waiting at the parking garage exit to take you there. Your belongings have already been moved. You broke into my apartment? We used your keys. You left them at the nurse's station. A pause. Mr. Castellano wants you to know you're welcome to refuse. But the men who shot him are still out there, and your apartment was a studio with one exit and no security. The place he's arranged is safer. I don't want his protection. Then you'll die within a week. Sophia said it flatly, without emotion. The Volkov family doesn't make idle threats. They've already put a price on anyone connected to Dominic. That includes you. Now, you can accept his help and survive, or you can cling to your pride and die. Your choice. The line went dead. Emma sat there, rage and fear warring in her chest. Through her rearview mirror, she saw a black SUV waiting by the exit, engine running, patient, inevitable. She started her car and drove toward it, hating every second of her surrender. The temporary housing was a penthouse in the Gold Coast, 43rd floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. Emma stepped inside and immediately felt like she'd entered a museum. Everything was white marble, dark wood, and chrome. The living room alone was bigger than her entire apartment had been. Mr. Castellano wanted you to be comfortable, Sophia said, appearing behind her. She was in her 50s, elegant in a black suit, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Your clothes are in the master bedroom, organized by type. The kitchen is fully stocked. There's a gym on the 40th floor, a pool on the roof. Security is stationed on every floor. This is a cage, Emma said quietly. A beautiful cage, but still a cage. It's protection. Sophia's expression softened slightly. I know this is overwhelming, but the Volkov family, they're not like the old organizations. They're Russian, brutal, and they don't follow the traditional rules. If they've decided you're a target, you need walls between you and them. Why me? I'm nobody. You saved Dominic's life. That makes you somebody. Sophia walked to the window. Sophia, 15 years ago, when you found him in that alley, do you know why he was there? Emma shook her head. His father's enemies had found him, stabbed him and left him to die as a message to Vincent. But you saved him. He survived, came back stronger, and eventually took over everything his father built. The Volkovs see you as the reason their enemy exists. Kill you, hurt Dominic. Simple math. That's insane. That's their world. Sophia turned to face her. And now, whether you like it or not, it's yours too. Emma sank onto the white leather couch, her head in her hands. I just wanted to help people. That's all I ever wanted. Then help him. Sophia sat beside her. Dominic is being discharged tomorrow against medical advice. He'll need someone to change his dressings, monitor for infection, manage his pain medication. He needs a nurse. He needs you. He needs a doctor. He needs someone he trusts. And for some reason, he trusts you. Sophia stood. Think about it. I'll be back tomorrow morning to take you to him. Or not. Like I said, your choice. After Sophia left, Emma explored her prison. The master bedroom had a bed bigger than some studio apartments. The bathroom had heated floors and a shower that could fit 6 people. The closet held all her clothes, plus new ones. Designer labels she recognized from magazines but had never imagined wearing. On the nightstand, she found a note in masculine handwriting. Thank you for saving me. Again, everything here is yours, no strings attached. If you leave, it's still yours. If you stay, it's still yours. The only thing I ask is that you let me keep you alive. D. Beneath the note was a phone. New. Top of the line. She turned it on and found only 2 contacts saved. Dominic and Sophia. She should throw it away. Should pack her things and leave. Should call a lawyer, the police, someone who could help her escape this nightmare. Instead, she texted Dominic. I need to see you. Tonight. The response came immediately. Room 347. I'll be waiting. Emma arrived at the hospital after visiting hours, but the guards at Dominic's door waved her through like she was expected, like she belonged. He was sitting up in bed, looking stronger than he had that morning. Someone had brought him clothes, expensive black pajamas that somehow made him look more dangerous, not less. His laptop was open on the bedside table, and he was on the phone, speaking rapid Italian. When he saw her, he ended the call immediately, You came. Relief flooded his features. I wasn't sure you would. I came to tell you I'm not staying in that penthouse. Emma closed the door behind her. I'm not accepting your money, your protection, or your guilt. I saved you because it was the right thing to do, not because I wanted to be owned by you. I don't want to own you. Dominic set aside his laptop. I want to keep you alive. By controlling where I live, by moving my things without permission, by making decisions about my life like I'm a child, by keeping you out of the crossfire. His voice rose, then he winced, pressing a hand to his bandaged chest. Damn it. You want the truth, Emma? Fine. The Volkovs aren't the only ones who know about you. Word's spreading. The woman who saved Dominic Castellano twice is now a walking target. Every enemy I've made, and I've made plenty, they're going to come for you. Not to kill you quickly, that would be too kind. They'll take you, hurt you, use you as leverage against me. And I won't let that happen. So what's your plan? Keep me locked in a golden tower forever? Keep you alive until I eliminate the threat. He met her eyes. Give me 2 weeks. Let me handle the Volkovs. Let me make it clear that touching you means death. Then, if you want to leave, I'll let you go. No arguments, no conditions. Just please, Emma, give me 2 weeks to make sure walking away won't be a death sentence. Emma wanted to argue, wanted to maintain her independence, her dignity, her life before tonight. But she remembered the cold certainty in Sophia's voice. You'll die within a week. 2 weeks, she said finally. But I have conditions. Name them. I'm your nurse. Nothing more. I'll help you recover because that's my job. But I'm not your possession, your property, or your anything else. We keep this professional. Agreed. Dominic nodded, though something flickered in his eyes. Disappointment, maybe. And you tell me the truth. No more secrets, no more surveillance. If you want me to trust you, you have to trust me. That's harder. He looked away. There are things about my life, my work, that you're better off not knowing. Then we have nothing else to discuss. Emma turned toward the door. Wait. His voice stopped her. You're right. If I want your trust, I need to give mine first. Ask me anything. I'll answer honestly. Emma turned back. Why did you really pay off my debts? Because I've been watching you struggle for 6 months. Watching you sell everything you owned, work yourself to exhaustion, eat ramen for dinner because it was all you could afford. I could have helped sooner, but I knew you'd refuse. The shooting gave me an excuse. That's manipulative. That's true. He didn't look away. I'm not a good man, Emma. I'm a criminal who's done terrible things, but I'm trying to be better. For you, because you believed I could be. The raw honesty in his voice cracked something in Emma's chest. She'd spent 6 months drowning, and not once had anyone asked if she needed help. But this dangerous stranger, this man who'd built an empire on violence, had been watching, waiting, protecting her from the shadows. I'll stay, she said, quietly. 2 weeks, professional. And Dominic, don't make me regret this. I won't. He reached for her hand, hesitated, pulled back. Thank you, for not giving up on me. Again. Section 5. The glimpse behind the mask. Dominic was discharged the next morning in an operation that looked more like a military extraction. 4 SUVs, 8 armed guards, and a route that changed 3 times to avoid surveillance. Emma rode in the middle vehicle with Dominic and Sophia, watching Chicago blur past through bulletproof windows. Is this really necessary? She asked. Last night, someone tried to plant a bomb in the parking garage. Dominic didn't look up from his phone. Marco disabled it. So yes, this is necessary. Marco? Head of my security. You'll meet him. Dominic finally looked at her. He's been with me since the beginning. Saved my life more times than I can count. If something happens to me, you listen to Marco. He'll keep you safe. Nothing's going to happen to you. Always plan for the worst. His smile was grim. Learned that from my father. They arrived at the estate in Lake Forest, 30 minutes north of the city. The property was surrounded by walls, cameras, and guards that made Emma feel like she'd entered a military compound. The house itself was massive, but somehow understated. Modern architecture with clean lines and lots of glass. Welcome to Castellano House, Sophia said as they pulled up to the front entrance. Built by Dominic's grandfather in the 1950s, renovated 3 years ago. 18 rooms, 12 bathrooms, full security system, and completely defensible in case of attack. That last part isn't usually in the real estate listing, Emma muttered. Dominic laughed, a real laugh that transformed his face. I like you, Emma Chen. You don't pretend to be comfortable with things that should terrify you. Oh, I'm terrified. I'm just good at hiding it. Inside, the house was surprisingly warm, not the sterile museum she'd expected, but actual lived-in spaces. Books on shelves, art on walls, a massive kitchen that smelled like someone actually cooked in it. A woman appeared in the kitchen doorway, maybe 60, with kind eyes and flour on her hands. Mr. Dominic, you're home, and you must be Emma. Sophia told me you'd be staying. She wiped her hands on her apron and pulled Emma into a hug before she could protest. I'm Rosa. I run this house, which means I run these men who think they're so tough. Rosa practically raised me, Dominic said, his expression softening in a way Emma hadn't seen before. My mother died when I was 8. Rosa made sure I didn't grow up completely feral. I did my best, Rosa said with mock severity. Though you were a difficult child, always getting into trouble, always needing stitches. She looked at Emma. Did he tell you about the time he fell out of a tree trying to rescue a cat and broke his arm in 3 places? I was 7, Dominic protested. You were trying to be a hero even then. Rosa patted his cheek. Some things never change. Now, let's get you settled. Emma, dear, your room is next to Dominic's. He'll need his dressings changed twice a day, and I want you to monitor him. This one is terrible at following doctor's orders. I'm standing right here, Dominic said. Then you can hear me clearly. Rosa turned back to Emma. Any trouble from him, you tell me. I'll straighten him out. Emma couldn't help but smile. I think I'm going to like it here. Good. Because you're family now. Rosa said it simply, like it was already decided. Anyone Dominic brings home is family. The next 3 days fell into an unexpected rhythm. Emma would wake up in her room, massive with its own bathroom and balcony overlooking the lake, still uncomfortable with the luxury but slowly accepting it. She'd find Rosa in the kitchen making breakfast, enough food to feed an army. Then she'd go to Dominic's room to change his dressings. Those moments were the hardest. Being close to him, seeing the wound she'd saved him from, watching him try not to wince when she cleaned the stitches. The scar from 15 years ago was right next to the new injury, a permanent reminder of their connection. Tell me about that night, Emma said on the 3rd day, her hands gentle as she applied fresh gauze. The first time. What happened after you left that basement? Dominic was quiet for a long moment. I went back to my father, told him I'd been stabbed by the Antonov family, his rivals at the time. He was furious. Not that I'd been hurt, but that I'd survived without his knowledge. He saw it as weakness. That's horrible. That was Vincent. Dominic stared at the ceiling. He sent me to Italy for 2 years after that. Training, he called it. Learning the family business. Really, it was punishment for not dying when I was supposed to. Emma's hand stilled. I'm so sorry. Don't be. Those 2 years made me who I am. I learned to fight, to negotiate, to see through deception. I learned how to build power without relying on violence. He looked at her. And every single day, I thought about the girl who'd saved me, who'd seen me bleeding out and decided I was worth the risk. I promised myself I'd become someone worthy of that choice. You don't owe me anything, Dominic. I owe you everything. His hand covered hers on his chest. My life, my empire, my purpose. All of it exists because you didn't walk away. The intensity in his eyes made Emma's breath catch. She pulled her hand away, finishing the bandaging with shaking fingers. All done. Take your pain medication and rest. Yes, ma'am. But he was smiling. The 4th night, Emma couldn't sleep. She wandered downstairs at 2 a.m., hoping to find tea, and found Dominic in the kitchen instead. He was cooking, his movements careful to protect his healing wound, but confident. The smell of garlic and herbs filled the air. Couldn't sleep either? He asked without turning around. How did you know it was me? Your footsteps. Light, hesitant, like you're still not sure you belong here. He glanced over his shoulder. You do belong here, by the way, in case that wasn't clear. Emma sat at the kitchen island, watching him work. What are you making? Aglio e olio, garlic, olive oil, pasta, chili flakes. My mother's recipe. He stirred the pan. She taught me to cook when I was 5. Said a man who can feed himself can survive anything. Was she right? Haven't starved yet. He plated the pasta, set it in front of her with a fork. Try it. Emma took a bite and nearly moaned. The pasta was perfect, simple but incredible, every flavor balanced. This is amazing. Cooking was my rebellion, Dominic said, making a plate for himself and sitting beside her. My father wanted me to learn violence, strategy, intimidation. I learned those things, but I also learned to make carbonara and risotto and tiramisu, small acts of defiance that let me hold on to something that wasn't his. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Emma asked, "Do you ever regret it, taking over his organization?" "Every day." Dominic set down his fork. "But I didn't take it over to continue his legacy. I took it over to change it. My father ruled through fear and violence. I rule through, let's call it strategic leverage. I invest in legitimate businesses, employ people who need second chances. And yes, I still operate in gray areas. But I'm not him, Emma. I'm trying to be better. I can see that." She met his eyes. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "A monster. A criminal. Someone I'd regret saving." She smiled slightly. "But you're just a man who learned to cook from his mother and wants to prove he's not his father. That's not monstrous. That's human." Something shifted in Dominic's expression. Vulnerability, raw and unguarded. "You see me," he said quietly. "Not the reputation, not the power, not the violence. Just me. Is that so rare? It's everything." He reached for her hand across the kitchen island. This time, Emma didn't pull away. They sat there in the quiet house, holding hands over empty plates, two people learning to trust despite every reason not to. "Tell me about your husband," Dominic said eventually. "If you want to." Emma tensed. "Why?" "Because you never talk about him. Because I know you're still grieving. Because understanding your pain helps me understand you." She took a breath. "Tommy was a mistake. I knew it 6 months into the marriage, but I was too stubborn to admit it. He was charming at first, then controlling, then cruel. Not physically, but emotionally. He made me feel small, stupid, worthless. The accident that killed him, he was drunk, driving to meet his mistress. He died, and I felt relief. Then guilt for feeling relief. That's not your fault. I know. Logically, I know. But it still haunts me. I married the wrong man, for the wrong reasons, and even his death couldn't free me from the consequences." She looked at Dominic. "I'm not good at trust anymore. I'm not good at letting people close. I understand that." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "My father's legacy taught me that trusting people gets you killed. Everyone wants something. Everyone has an angle. But Emma, I don't want anything from you except your presence, your voice, your terrible habit of telling me when I'm being an idiot. That's enough. That can't be enough. I'm nobody. You're the woman who saved me when I was dying, the woman who risked everything for a stranger, the woman who looked at a wounded criminal and saw someone worth fighting for." He stood, pulling her to her feet, keeping her hand in his. "That's not nobody. That's everything I didn't know I needed." They stood close, the kitchen warm and quiet around them. Emma knew she should step back, maintain professional distance, protect herself from getting hurt again. But Dominic looked at her like she was precious, like she mattered, and she'd forgotten what that felt like. "This is a bad idea," she whispered. "Probably." His free hand came up to cup her face, gentle despite the violence she knew he was capable of. "But I've spent 15 years making careful decisions, strategic moves, calculated risks. Maybe it's time I made a decision based on what I want instead of what's smart." "What do you want?" "You. In whatever way you'll let me have you." Emma should have said no, should have maintained boundaries. Instead, she stood on her toes and kissed him. It was soft, tentative, a question rather than a demand. Dominic responded with surprising gentleness, his hands framing her face like she was made of glass. When they pulled apart, they were both breathing hard. "That was," Emma started. "A beginning," Dominic finished. "If you want it to be." Before Emma could answer, Sophia appeared in the kitchen doorway. Her expression was grim. "We have a problem. The Volkovs just took Marco." Section 6. The complication. The war room in Dominic's basement looked like something from a spy movie. Monitors covered one wall, showing security feeds from across Chicago. A massive table dominated the center, covered with maps and photographs. 6 men stood around it, all wearing the same expression of controlled fury. "Talk," Dominic said, his voice cold and sharp. One of the men, tall with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow, stepped forward. Marco was doing reconnaissance on the Volkov warehouse in Gary. He was grabbed at 2300 hours. We got this 10 minutes ago. He handed Dominic a phone showing a video. Emma watched over Dominic's shoulder, her stomach twisting. The video showed Marco tied to a chair, bloodied but alive. A man in an expensive suit stood behind him, speaking in accented English. Dominic Castellano, you killed my brother, took our territory, disrespected the Volkov name. Now you pay. Bring yourself to the warehouse by dawn, alone, or your friend dies. And after him, we come for the pretty nurse, the one who saved you. We'll take our time with her. The video ended. Emma felt the blood drain from her face. The man in the video had looked directly at the camera when he mentioned her, his smile cold and cruel. You're not going, she said immediately. I don't have a choice. Dominic handed the phone back. Marco's been with me for 12 years. He's saved my life more times than I can count. I'm not letting him die. It's a trap. They'll kill you both. Probably. Dominic turned to his men. Which is why I need a plan. Paolo, what's the layout of the warehouse? For the next hour, Emma watched as Dominic and his team planned what amounted to a military operation. They had blueprints of the warehouse, guard rotations, weak points in the building's security. They discussed tactics with the cold efficiency of soldiers, not criminals. I still don't like this, the scarred man said. You go in there, boss. You might not come out. Then make sure I come out, Luca. Dominic's voice was steel. Get 20 men to the warehouse by 0400. Position them outside the kill zone. When I give the signal, move in fast. Overwhelming force. Minimal casualties if possible. I want the Volkovs neutralized, not martyred. And if something goes wrong? Luca asked. Dominic's eyes found Emma across the room. If I don't make it out, Sophia has instructions. Emma gets full protection, new identity, relocation anywhere she wants. Make sure she's safe. No. Emma stepped forward. Absolutely not. You're not doing this. Emma, don't Emma me. You just told me you're walking into a trap, that you might die, and you expect me to just accept that? Her voice rose. I didn't save your life twice so you could throw it away for some macho rescue mission. It's not macho, it's necessary. Marco is my responsibility. Then send your team. Send Luca. Send anyone but yourself. They want me, Emma. If I don't show, they kill Marco and come for you next. At least this way I can control the situation. Control? Emma laughed bitterly. You're going to walk into a building full of people who want you dead. That's not control. That's suicide. Dominic crossed to her, his hands gentle on her shoulders. I've survived worse odds. Trust me. I do trust you. That's the problem. She gripped his shirt. For the first time in years, I'm letting myself trust someone, and you're asking me to watch you walk into certain death? That's not fair, Dominic. I know. He pulled her close, mindful of his healing wound. But this is who I am. This is my world. Sometimes I have to do terrible things to protect the people I care about. Then let me come with you. Absolutely not. Why not? I'm a nurse. If someone gets hurt, if something goes wrong, you're the first person they'll target. His voice was firm. You stay here. Where? It's safe. That's non-negotiable. They stared at each other, wills clashing. Finally, Emma pulled away. Fine. But Dominic? She met his eyes. You come back to me. You come back, or I swear I'll find a way to bring you back from the dead, just so I can kill you myself for being stupid. Despite everything, Dominic smiled. Yes, ma'am. Emma watched from the security room as Dominic and his team prepared to leave. It was 3 a.m. 2 hours until dawn, and the house felt like a tomb. Sophia sat beside her, monitoring communications, her expression professionally neutral. He'll be okay, Sophia said quietly. I've seen him survive worse. What happened to his mother? Emma asked suddenly. Rosa said she died when he was 8. How? Sophia hesitated. That's his story to tell. Please, I need to understand him. Understand why he's willing to die for someone else. A long silence. Then Sophia sighed. Cancer. Fast. Aggressive. His father, Vincent, he refused to take her to, and the hospital because he was paranoid about being tracked by the FBI. By the time Dominic finally called an ambulance himself, it was too late. She died 3 days later. Emma's chest tightened. He lost her because his father chose power over family. Exactly. It's why Dominic rebuilt the organization differently. Why he keeps doctors on retainer, runs legitimate businesses, tries to operate in the light instead of shadows. He's terrified of becoming Vincent. Sophia looked at her. And he's terrified that caring about you will put you in the same danger his mother faced. Then why pursue this? Why let me get close? Because for the first time since his mother died, he's found someone who sees him as human instead of a weapon. Sophia's expression softened. Don't give up on him, Emma. He needs you more than he knows how to say. On the monitors, Emma watched Dominic climb into an SUV. He looked up at the camera, as if he knew she was watching, and mouthed 3 words. I'll come back. Then he was gone. The next 2 hours were the longest of Emma's life. She paced the security room while Sophia coordinated communications. The team reached the warehouse at 4 a.m., positioned themselves in the surrounding buildings, waited. At 5:45, Dominic walked through the warehouse entrance alone. Emma's heart stopped. The feed showed him entering a vast empty space. Concrete floors, exposed beams, shadows everywhere. And in the center, Marco, still tied to the chair, barely conscious. A man emerged from the shadows. The same one from the video. She recognized his suit. Alexei Volkov, Sophia had said. The eldest brother, the most dangerous one. Dominic Castellano. Alexei's voice came through the audio feed. You actually came. I thought you'd be smarter than that. Let Marco go. Your fight is with me, not him. My fight is with everyone you care about. Alexei circled Dominic like a predator. You killed my brother Ivan last year. Shot him in his own restaurant. You think I'd forget that? Ivan was selling drugs to kids in my territory. He knew the rules. Rules. Alexei laughed. You act like you're better than us. Like running legitimate businesses makes you clean, but you're still Vincent Castellano's son. Still a criminal playing pretend. I'm nothing like my father. No? Then why are you here? Willing to die for honor, for loyalty. That's his teaching. He trained you well. Emma watched Dominic's hands, saw them curl into fists. Then relax. If you're going to kill me, do it. Stop wasting time. Oh, I'm going to kill you. But first, Alexei pulled out a phone, held up a photograph. Emma's photograph, taken from a distance. First, I'm going to tell you exactly what we'll do to your pretty nurse after you're dead. Every detail, every Dominic moved. Faster than Emma thought possible with his injury, he closed the distance between himself and Alexei. The punch connected with brutal precision, dropping the Russian to his knees. Then all hell broke loose. Men emerged from the shadows, at least a dozen of them. Dominic fought with controlled fury, taking down 3 before they overwhelmed him. Emma watched in horror as they beat him, dragged him to the ground, and the lights went out. Sophia was shouting into her radio. Go, go, go. On the night vision feeds, Emma saw Dominic's team swarm the warehouse. Gunfire, brief and precise. The Volkov men dropping like dominoes. In 90 seconds, it was over. The lights came back on. Marco was being cut free by Luka. Alexei Volkov lay on the ground, hands zip-tied behind his back. And Dominic was on his knees, holding his chest, blood seeping through his shirt. No, Emma whispered. No, no, no. She was running before Sophia could stop her. Through the house, into the garage, into the SUV that Sophia's driver had ready. They raced toward Gary, toward the warehouse, toward Dominic, who'd promised to come back and was now bleeding. Because of her. Because he'd defended her honor. Because he'd cared more about protecting her than protecting himself. The warehouse was controlled chaos when Emma arrived. Dominic's men were securing the Volkovs, calling for cleanup crews, managing the aftermath. And in the center of it all, Dominic sat against a support beam, pale but alive, Rosa already beside him with a medical kit. I told you to stay home, he said when he saw Emma, managing a weak smile. You reopened your wound, you idiot. Emma dropped to her knees beside him, her hands already assessing the damage. Rosa, I need gauze. Lots of it. And someone call an ambulance. No ambulance, Dominic said. Too many questions. Just patch me up here. You need a hospital. I need you. His hand found hers, bloody and trembling. Just you. Emma looked at Rosa, who nodded. Between them, they worked to stabilize Dominic, stop the bleeding, determine that while bad, the wound wasn't life-threatening. Not yet. You're an idiot, Emma said as she worked, tears streaming down her face. A stupid, reckless, heroic idiot. But I came back. Dominic's voice was weak but certain. I promised I would. You almost didn't. But I did, because I had something worth coming back to. When Emma finally had him stabilized, when his color had returned slightly and his breathing had steadied, she sat back on her heels and looked at him properly. Don't you ever do that to me again, she said fiercely. Can't promise that. It's a dangerous life. Then I'll just have to keep saving you. She took his face in her hands. Because apparently that's what I do. I see stupid, heroic men getting themselves killed, and I can't help but fix them. I love you. He said it simply, like stating a fact. I know it's too soon. I know you don't trust easily. But Emma, I've loved you since I was 18 years old, and you believed I was worth saving. Everything I've done, every choice I've made, it's been to become someone worthy of you. Emma's breath caught. Every rational thought told her this was madness. They barely knew each other. His world was dangerous. She'd just watched him almost die, but she'd also watched him fight to protect her name. Watched him build an empire based on second chances. Watched him be gentle with Rosa and loyal to Marco, and vulnerable with her in ways that must terrify him. I'm not there yet, she said honestly. I'm not ready to say those words, but Dominic, I'm falling, and that terrifies me more than anything else in your dangerous world. Then fall, he whispered. I'll catch you. I promise. In a warehouse in Gary, surrounded by violence and victory, Emma Chen kissed Dominic Castellano and let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, some people were worth saving twice. 3 weeks passed in a strange, suspended reality. Dominic recovered under Emma's careful watch, his wound healing cleanly despite the complications from the warehouse. The Volkov threat had been neutralized. Alexei and his men faced federal charges for kidnapping and attempted murder, evidence mysteriously appearing in the FBI's possession within hours of the warehouse raid. Emma should have felt safe. Instead, she felt trapped in a gilded cage that grew smaller every day. She stood in the penthouse kitchen at dawn, watching the sun rise over Lake Michigan, and tried to remember what her old life had felt like. The cramped apartment, the exhausting shifts, the constant worry about money. It had been terrible, but it had been hers. This luxury, this protection, it came with a price she hadn't fully understood until now. You're up early. Dominic's voice came from behind her. He moved quietly for such a large man, a skill probably learned from years of necessary paranoia. Couldn't sleep. Emma didn't turn around. I've been thinking. That sounds dangerous. He came to stand beside her, 2 coffee cups in his hands. He'd learned how she took hers cream. No. Sugar. Small observations that somehow made everything more complicated. I want to go back to work. The words came out firmer than she felt. At the hospital. My real job. Dominic's jaw tightened. That's not safe yet. It's been 3 weeks. The Volkovs are gone. You said yourself the threat was neutralized. The Volkovs were one threat. There are others. He set down his coffee with controlled precision. Emma, you have to understand. In my world, enemies don't just disappear. They multiply. The moment word spreads that I care about you. Then stop caring about me. She finally looked at him. Or let me live my life despite the risk. Because this, staying locked in your house, playing nurse to a man who doesn't need one anymore, watching your guards follow me everywhere, this isn't living. This is existing in a very expensive prison. I'm trying to keep you alive. I don't want to just survive, Dominic. Her voice rose. I did that for 3 years with Tommy. Survived his cruelty, his control, his constant need to make me small. I swore when he died that I'd never let another man dictate my choices. And here I am, right back in that same cage, just with better furniture. The comparison hit him like a physical blow. Emma watched the pain flash across his face before he could hide it. I'm nothing like him, Dominic said quietly. Aren't you? You control where I live, where I go, who I see. You make decisions about my safety without consulting me. You pay my debts without asking. You moved my entire life without permission. She wrapped her arms around herself. The intent is different, I know. You're trying to protect me, not hurt me. But the result is the same. I'm not free. So what do you want? His voice had gone cold, defensive. You want me to just let you walk back into danger? Pretend that being connected to me doesn't paint a target on your back? I want you to trust me to make my own choices about risk. I want you to treat me like a partner, not a possession. Emma's eyes filled with tears. I want what you promised me that first night in the hospital, a choice. You said I always have a choice. But every day, You take more of those choices away. Dominic stared out at the lake, his hands gripping the counter hard enough that his knuckles went white. When he spoke, his voice was raw. My mother died because my father controlled her access to healthcare, because he valued his paranoia more than her life. He finally looked at Emma. I swore I'd never be that man. Never put power before the people I care about. But you're right. I've been doing exactly that, just with different justification. The admission hung between them, heavy and honest. I'm scared, Dominic continued. Terrified, actually. Because the last time I loved someone, I was 8 years old and powerless to save her. Now I have all this power, all these resources, and I'm still terrified I'll fail. That I'll lose you the way I lost her. Emma's anger cracked. She moved to him, taking his face in her hands. You can't protect me from everything, Dominic. Life doesn't work that way. And the harder you try to control every variable, the more you'll push me away. I know. His hands came up to cover hers. But knowing it and accepting it are different things. Then learn to accept it. Because I can't stay here, in this beautiful prison, waiting for you to decide it's safe enough for me to live. She pulled back. I'm going back to work next week. I'm moving back to my own apartment, yes. I still have the lease. I've been paying it. And if you want to be part of my life, you'll respect those boundaries. And if I can't? The question was barely a whisper. Then this ends here. Emma's heart broke saying it. Because I'd rather be alone and free than loved and caged. The week that followed was torture. Dominic didn't argue, didn't fight, but Emma could see the strain in every interaction. He increased security at the hospital, stationed guards near her apartment building, implemented protocols Emma only learned about through Sophia's careful explanations. He's trying, Sophia said one afternoon, finding Emma in the penthouse that no longer felt like home. In his own broken way, he's trying to give you space while keeping you safe. It's not enough space, Emma said. He's still making decisions without me. Because he loves you, and he's terrified. Sophia sat beside her. Do you know what happened after his mother died? Vincent sent him away. To Italy, to his uncle. Dominic was 8 years old, grieving, and Vincent treated it like weakness. Sent him somewhere to toughen up. He didn't come back for 3 years. Emma's throat tightened. I didn't know. Dominic doesn't talk about it, but those years shaped him. He learned that loving people means losing them, that vulnerability is dangerous, that control is the only thing between him and devastation. Sophia's eyes were kind but firm. I'm not excusing his behavior. You're right to set boundaries, but understand that this man is learning how to love without controlling for the first time in his life. It won't be perfect. I don't need perfect, Emma said. I need honest. I need partnership. Then give him time to learn what that means. But time was something they didn't have. Emma's first day back at Chicago Memorial felt like coming home. The familiar chaos of the ER, the smell of antiseptic, the constant motion of saving lives, it reminded her who she was before Dominic Castellano crashed back into her world. She was 6 hours into her shift when the gunshot victim arrived. Female, mid-20s, GSW to the abdomen. The paramedics rattled off vitals. Found in an alley off State Street. No ID. She kept asking for Emma Chen. Emma's blood ran cold. What? She said to find Emma Chen. The paramedic shrugged. Figured you'd know her. Emma approached the gurney and her world tilted. A woman was young, maybe 25, with dark hair and frightened eyes. Emma had never seen her before in her life. Please, the woman gasped, grabbing Emma's hand. He said you'd help me. Said you save people. Who said that? What's your name? Maria Santos. I worked for the Castellano organization, accounting department. She coughed, blood flecking her lips. Someone's stealing from Dominic. Millions. I found the evidence, and they tried to kill me for it. Who's stealing? Don't know, but they're close to him, very close. Maria's grip tightened. I couldn't go to Dominic directly. They'd kill me before I got through the door. But I heard about you, his angel, the one person he trusts completely. Please, you have to tell him. Before the monitor flatlined. No! Emma started compressions, but she knew. The bullet had severed the femoral artery. Maria had been dead the moment she was shot. She'd just fought long enough to deliver her message. After 30 minutes, Dr. Hayes called it. Time of death, 14:23. Emma stood in the trauma bay, hands shaking, while the reality crashed over her. Someone in Dominic's organization was betraying him. Someone close enough to know about Maria's investigation. And they'd just sent Emma a message written in blood. She pulled out her phone and texted Dominic, "We need to talk. Now. It's urgent." The response came immediately. "On my way." Dominic arrived within 20 minutes, which meant he'd been speeding recklessly through Chicago traffic. He found Emma in the doctor's lounge, still in her bloody scrubs, staring at nothing. "What happened?" He scanned her for injuries. "Are you hurt?" "A woman died on my table an hour ago. Maria Santos. She said she worked for you." Dominic went very still. "Maria from accounting. Young, brilliant with numbers. She's been with me for 3 years." His voice was carefully controlled. "What happened?" Emma told him. Everything. The gunshot wound, the message about theft, Maria's dying words. She watched Dominic's expression shift from concern to cold fury. "Someone in my organization is stealing, and they killed Maria to cover it up." He pulled out his phone. "I need to get you somewhere safe. Now." "No." Emma stood. "No more running, no more hiding. If someone's coming after me, they're doing it to get to you. Which means the only way to stop this is to stop them." "Emma, I mean it, Dominic. Maria died trying to warn you. The least we can do is honor that by finding out who betrayed you." She grabbed his arm. "But we do it together. As partners. You don't lock me away while you handle it. We face this as a team." Dominic stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. "Together," he agreed. "But Emma, this gets dangerous. Really dangerous. The kind of danger that—" "I know." She cut him off. "I watched Maria die trying to expose corruption in your organization. I understand the stakes. But I'm not running anymore. I'm tired of being protected. I want to fight back." Something shifted in Dominic's eyes. Respect, maybe. Or recognition that Emma Chen wasn't the same woman he'd tried to cage 3 weeks ago. "All right," he said. "Then let's find out who's betraying me. Together." Section 8. The Battle. The war room in Dominic's basement became Emma's classroom in organized crime. For 3 days, she sat beside him while he and his inner circle, Luca, Sophia, Rosa, and 3 others Emma learned to trust, dissected the organization's finances. "Maria was right," Sophia said, pointing to spreadsheets that made Emma's head spin. "Someone's been skimming for at least 6 months. Small amounts. Carefully hidden, but it adds up to over $8 million. $8 million? Dominic's voice was ice. "Who has that level of access?" "That's the problem." Luca pulled up an organizational chart. "Only 5 people have the clearance to move that kind of money without raising flags. Sophia, Marco, Paolo, Vincent, and me," Dominic finished. "So we're looking for someone who either has access or is working with someone who does." Emma studied the chart, her nursing training making her see patterns others might miss. What about combinations? Could 2 people be working together, pooling their access? Everyone turned to look at her. "That's actually brilliant," Sophia said slowly. "If 2 people coordinated, they could move money in ways that would look legitimate to each department." "Run every combination," Dominic ordered. "Cross-reference with Maria's timeline. Find the pattern." It took another 12 hours, but they found it. "It's Marco and Vincent," Sophia said, her voice hollow. "They've been moving money through shell companies, making it look like legitimate investments. Marco handled the logistics. Vincent approved the transfers." The room went silent. Marco, who'd been with Dominic for 12 years. Vincent, his cousin, family, who'd stood beside him through everything. "Where are they now?" Dominic's voice was unnaturally calm. "Marco's at the warehouse in Gary. Vincent's at home, I think." Luca checked his phone. "Should I bring them in?" "No." Dominic stood. "They'll run the moment they know we're onto them. We need to catch them together, with evidence they can't deny." "How?" Emma asked. Dominic's smile was sharp and cold. "We give them something too tempting to resist. We use their greed against them." The trap was elegant in its simplicity. Sophia leaked information through carefully chosen channels that Dominic would be moving $10 million in cash to a secure location for a major deal. The money would be vulnerable for exactly 2 hours during transport. "If Marco and Vincent are stealing, they can't resist this," Dominic explained to Emma as they prepared. $10 million in untraceable cash. It's the score that would let them disappear forever. And if they take the bait, then we have them. He checked his weapon, a gesture so casual it reminded Emma of how different their worlds were. "Emma, you don't have to be there for this. You could wait here, let us handle, together," Emma interrupted. We agreed. Partners. Partners don't put each other in unnecessary danger. And partners don't make decisions about risk for each other. She met his eyes. I'm coming, Dominic. Either accept that or we're done. He stared at her, jaw tight, clearly warring with every protective instinct. Finally, he nodded. Stay with Sophia. Don't leave her side. If shooting starts, I'm a trauma nurse. I know what to do if shooting starts. Despite everything, Dominic almost smiled. Of course you do. The warehouse was the same one where they'd rescued Marco from the Volkovs. Emma wondered if the irony was intentional. If Dominic had chosen this location specifically to see how far his best friend had fallen. They arrived at midnight. The money, actually just stacks of cut paper and legitimate bills on top, sat in a reinforced case in the center of the empty space. Dominic's team positioned themselves in the shadows, invisible but present. Emma crouched behind a support beam with Sophia, watching and waiting. This feels wrong, Emma whispered. That's because it is wrong. Sophia's hand rested on her concealed weapon. Betrayal always feels wrong. They didn't have to wait long. Marco arrived first, moving through the warehouse with the confidence of someone who'd been there 100 times. He approached the case, checked the money, and Emma saw the moment greed won over loyalty. His smile was ugly, victorious. Then Vincent appeared. Dominic's cousin, a man Emma had met twice, always polite and respectful. Now his face held the same ugly triumph. 8 million wasn't enough? Marco asked, his voice echoing in the empty space. 8 million split 2 ways leaves us both vulnerable. Vincent pulled out his phone. This 10 million, we take it and disappear. Dominican Republic, new identities, the whole plan. And Dominic? Collateral damage. He's been weak since that nurse showed up anyway, letting a woman make him soft. Vincent laughed. His father would be ashamed. Emma felt Dominic tense beside her in their hiding spot. His hand found hers, squeezed once, then let go. The gesture said everything. Stay safe. I'm sorry you have to see this. I love you. Going somewhere, gentlemen? Dominic stepped out of the shadows, his voice carrying absolute authority. Marco spun, hand going to his weapon. Vincent froze, all color draining from his face. Boss, this isn't, Marco started. Don't insult me with lies. Dominic walked forward slowly, each step measured. Behind him, his team emerged from concealment, weapons drawn but not aimed. Yet, I heard everything. The 8 million you've stolen. Your plan to take this money and run. Your assessment of my weakness. Dominic, please. Vincent found his voice. It's not what you think. You were stealing from me, killing Maria Santos when she discovered your theft, planning to destroy everything I've built. Dominic stopped 10 feet away. The only question is why? Why? Marco's fear transformed into anger. Because we do all the dirty work while you play businessman. Because we risk our lives while you count money. Because you've gone soft, Dominic. Ever since that nurse saved you, you've been trying to be something you're not. And what am I, Marco? Vincent Castellano's son. A criminal. A killer. Marco's hand tightened on his weapon. But you're too proud to admit it. Too busy pretending you're different from your father. Well, you're not. You're just a criminal with better PR. The words landed like blows. Emma saw Dominic's control waver for just a moment. Saw the wound strike deep. Then his control slammed back into place, harder than before. You're right, Dominic said quietly. I am Vincent Castellano's son. I learned at the feet of a master criminal. And one thing my father taught me was how to deal with betrayal. He moved faster than Emma thought possible, closing the distance before Marco could draw his weapon. The fight was brutal and efficient. Dominic had been shot 3 weeks ago, should have been recovering, but years of training and cold fury made him unstoppable. Marco went down hard. Vincent tried to run, but Luca caught him in 3 steps. When the dust settled, both traitors were on their knees, hands zip-tied, weapons confiscated. You know what my father would do right now? Dominic stood over them, breathing hard. He'd put a bullet in your heads. Make an example. Show the organization that betrayal means death. Emma's heart stopped. This was it. The moment where Dominic chose between being Vincent's son or becoming something better. But I'm not my father, Dominic continued. His eyes found Emma's across the warehouse. Someone very wise recently reminded me that I get to choose who I am. That my past doesn't have to determine my future. He pulled out his phone, dialed, and said 4 words. FBI, I need pickup. Marco's eyes widened. You're turning us over to the feds? Evidence of your theft, Maria's murder, and tonight's attempted robbery will be delivered to federal prosecutors tomorrow. You'll spend the next 20 years in prison, but you'll be alive. Dominic crouched down to their level. That's the difference between me and my father. He ruled through fear and death. I rule through consequences that don't require me to be a murderer. They'll kill us in prison, Vincent whispered. You know they will. Then you better hope the federal protection program is as good as advertised. Dominic stood, turning his back on them. Luca, secure them until the feds arrive. I'm done here. He walked to Emma, and she saw the exhaustion in every line of his body. Not physical, but emotional. The weight of betrayal, of choosing mercy over vengeance, of proving he was different from his father. Let's go home, he said quietly. Emma took his hand. Yeah, let's go home. Section 9. The New World. 6 months later, Emma stood in the kitchen of Castellano House, watching Rosa teach her how to make Dominic's mother's recipe for carbonara. The afternoon sun streamed through windows that no longer felt like part of a fortress, just part of a home. More cheese, Rosa instructed. Don't be shy. Dominic's mother. She believed cheese was love made edible. Emma laughed, adding another handful of pecorino. Her hands, once so uncertain in this kitchen, now moved with confidence. She'd learned to cook, not because Dominic expected it, but because it brought her joy. A lot had changed in 6 months. After Marco and Vincent's arrests, Emma had insisted on returning to her apartment. Dominic hadn't argued, hadn't fought, had simply ensured her building had updated security and that Sophia knew her schedule. He visited her there, instead of demanding she stay with him, respected her space, learned what partnership actually meant. She'd kept working at Chicago Memorial, though now she also consulted for the medical clinics Dominic funded in underserved neighborhoods. She'd found a way to be part of his world without being consumed by it, and slowly, carefully, she'd fallen completely in love with him. He's going to love this, Rosa said, tasting the pasta. His mother would approve of you, you know. She'd say you have a good heart. I hope so. Emma plated the carbonara just as she heard the front door open. Dominic appeared in the kitchen doorway, and Emma's heart did its familiar flutter. He'd been in meetings all day with legitimate business partners, wearing a suit that made him look like any other wealthy businessman. But his eyes found hers immediately, and the way he looked at her, like she was the center of his universe, that was all Dominic. You cooked, he said, smiling. Rosa cooked. I assisted. Emma handed him a plate. Try it. He took a bite, and his eyes closed. When he opened them, they were suspiciously bright. It's perfect, he said quietly. Just like my mother used to make. Rosa beamed. She's a good student. Now, I'm going to give you two some privacy. Enjoy your dinner. She bustled out, leaving them alone. Dominic set down his plate and pulled Emma into his arms. I missed you today. I was here all afternoon. I miss you when you're in the other room. He kissed her forehead. Is that pathetic? It's sweet. Emma leaned into him, breathing in his scent of expensive cologne and something uniquely Dominic. How were your meetings? Productive. We're opening 3 new community centers in Englewood, Austin, and back of the yards. Each one will have medical clinics, job training, and youth programs. He pulled back to look at her. I want you to run the medical side. Design the clinics, hire the staff, make sure we're actually helping people. Emma's breath caught. Dominic, that's a huge responsibility. You can handle it. You've been handling me for 6 months, and I'm way more difficult than a medical clinic. She laughed. True. Okay. Yes, I'll do it. There's one condition. His expression turned serious. You have to marry me first. Emma's heart stopped. What? Dominic pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, opened it to reveal a ring that stole her breath. Simple platinum band with a single diamond, elegant and perfect. Emma Chen, 6 months ago you saved my life for the 2nd time. But more than that, you saved who I am. You saw a criminal trying to be better and believed he could be. You set boundaries when I needed them. You fought beside me when I needed a partner. You taught me that love doesn't mean control. He dropped to one knee. I'm still learning how to be the man you deserve. Still figuring out how to balance protection with freedom, power with vulnerability. But I want to spend the rest, a cut of my life learning with you. Will you marry me? Emma's vision blurred with tears. She thought about the scared 17-year-old who'd saved a dying boy in an alley, about the exhausted nurse drowning in debt and fear, about the woman she'd become, strong enough to set boundaries with a mafia boss and wise enough to see the good man beneath the dangerous exterior. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." Dominic stood, slipping the ring onto her finger, and kissed her with all the love and promise of their future. When they pulled apart, both of them were crying. "I love you," Dominic said. "I should say it more often. I love you, Emma. You're my angel, my salvation, my everything." "I love you too." She cupped his face. "You're not perfect, Dominic Castellano. You're still too controlling sometimes, still struggle with letting me make my own choices. But you're trying, you're growing, and I love you for that. I promise to keep trying, every day, for the rest of our lives." They ate carbonara in the kitchen where his mother had once cooked, making plans for their future. The wedding would be small, Emma insisted, just family and close friends. "What about your parents?" Dominic asked. "I haven't met them yet." "They're going to love you," Emma said, though she was slightly terrified of that meeting. "My mother will probably interrogate you for hours." "I can handle interrogation. Had plenty of practice with the FBI. Emma threw a dish towel at him. "Not funny." "A little funny." He caught the towel, grinning. Then his expression turned serious. "Emma, I need you to understand something. My world, it's always going to have danger. There will always be people who see you as a weakness, a target. I can minimize the risk, protect you as best I can, but I can't eliminate it completely." "I know," she took his hand, "and I accept that, because loving you means accepting all of you, including the danger. But Dominic, you have to accept all of me too, including my need to work, to help people, to sometimes take risks you don't approve of. Deal?" He squeezed her hand. "We'll figure it out together. Partners." "Partners," Emma agreed. They were married 3 months later in the garden of Castellano House, surrounded by late summer roses and the people who'd become family. Emma wore a simple white dress, elegant and understated. Dominic wore a dark suit and looked at her like she'd hung the moon. Rosa cried through the entire ceremony. Sophia served as maid of honor, still carrying her concealed weapon because old habits died hard. Luca was best man, and even he got misty-eyed when Dominic said his vows. "Emma Chen, 15 years ago you saved my life and showed me that redemption was possible. Today, you're choosing to spend your life with me, and that's the greatest gift I've ever received. I promise to honor your independence, respect your choices, and love you with everything I am. I promise to be your partner, not your protector. To walk beside you, not in front of you. To build a life with you that's worthy of the second chance you gave me." Emma's vows were simpler, but no less powerful. "Dominic Castellano, I thought I saved you that night in the alley, but the truth is, you saved me too. You showed me what it means to be loved without conditions, protected without being controlled, valued without being possessed. You're not perfect, but you're perfect for me. I choose you, every day, for the rest of our lives." When the officiant pronounced them married, when Dominic kissed her like she was his entire world, Emma felt something shift into place. This was home. Not the house, not the wealth, not the security. This man, this love, this partnership they'd fought so hard to build. The reception was joyful chaos. Rosa had prepared enough food for an army. Friends from the hospital mixed with Dominic's legitimate business partners, all of them celebrating without really understanding the journey that had brought the bride and groom to this moment. But Emma and Dominic understood. They'd walked through fire, faced betrayal and danger and their own fears. They'd learned to trust when trust seemed impossible. They'd chosen each other despite every logical reason not to. Late in the evening, Dominic pulled Emma away from the celebration, leading her to the edge of the property where they could see Lake Michigan stretching to the horizon. "Happy?" he asked. "Deliriously." Emma leaned into him. "Though I never imagined my wedding would include quite so many armed security guards. They're very discreet armed security guards. Still counts." She laughed, then grew serious. "Thank you, Dominic, for learning how to love me without caging me. I know how hard that's been for you. You're worth it. Worth every moment of terrified restraint." He turned her to face him. "Emma, I need you to know something. If you ever feel like I'm slipping back into old patterns, if I ever make you feel controlled instead of loved, you tell me immediately. I never want to be the man who makes you feel trapped. I will, I promise." She kissed him softly. "And you promise to tell me when I'm being too reckless, when my need for independence is actually just me being stubborn and putting myself in unnecessary danger?" "Deal," he smiled. "We'll keep each other balanced. They stood there as the sun set over Lake Michigan, two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely circumstances, who'd fought their way to love through violence and fear and betrayal, who'd learned that sometimes the people most worth saving are the ones who save us back. The community medical center in Englewood was Emma's pride and joy. She stood in the bright, clean waiting room, watching families receive care they couldn't afford anywhere else, and felt purpose settle deep in her bones. "Doctor, Martinez says we're fully booked for the next 3 weeks," Sophia said, appearing beside her with a tablet. "And we have a waiting list for the job training program." "That's amazing." Emma took the tablet, scrolling through numbers that made her smile. They were making a real difference. Dominic's money, her medical expertise, and a shared commitment to giving people second chances had created something beautiful. "Your husband is online too," Sophia said with a slight smile. "He says it's urgent." Emma rolled her eyes affectionately and picked up the phone. "What's the emergency?" "I miss you." Dominic's voice was warm with laughter. "Is that enough of an emergency?" "You saw me 3 hours ago. 3 hours too long, come home. Rosa made dinner. We have news to celebrate." "What news?" "The kind that's better delivered in person. Please, Angel, come home." Emma couldn't resist the plea in his voice. "Fine. Give me 30 minutes. She arrived home to find Dominic in the kitchen, cooking alongside Rosa, both of them laughing about something. The domesticity of it, this powerful man who'd once been Chicago's most dangerous criminal making pasta with his surrogate mother, never failed to make Emma's heart full. "What's the news?" she asked, kissing him hello. "Marco's being released next month. Early parole for good behavior and cooperation." Dominic's expression was complicated. "He wants to apologize. Asked if he could work at one of our community centers when he gets out." Emma's eyebrows rose. "What did you say?" "I said I'd think about it, that it was your decision as much as mine." He took her hands. "I know what he did. The betrayal, the theft, almost getting both of us killed. But Emma, isn't the whole point of what we're building to give people second chances? Even people who betrayed you? Especially people who betrayed me." Dominic's smile was rueful. Someone very wise once gave a bleeding criminal a second chance in an alley. She believed people could change, could be better than their worst choices. "I'm trying to honor that belief." Emma's eyes filled with tears. This man, who'd been so hard and cold when she'd found him again, who'd struggled so much with control and protection, was now extending grace to someone who'd hurt him deeply. "We'll interview him," Emma decided. "See if he's actually changed. If he has, if he's genuinely remorseful and willing to work hard, then yes, we give him a chance." "Together?" Dominic asked. "Always together." Emma kissed him. "Partners in crime prevention." He laughed, pulling her close. "I love you, Mrs. Castellano." "I love you too, Mr. Castellano." And in that moment, standing in the kitchen where his mother had once taught him to cook, surrounded by love and second chances, and the life they'd built from broken pieces, Dominic Castellano finally understood what his angel had known all along. Redemption wasn't about erasing the past. It was about choosing, every single day, to be better than who you were yesterday, to take the darkness that tried to consume you and transform it into light that could guide others home. Some people were worth saving twice, and some loves were worth fighting for, even when the odds seemed impossible. This was their story, and it was just beginning. Emma stood in front of the bathroom mirror at 4 a.m., hands shaking as she stared at the plastic stick. 2 pink lines, clear, undeniable, life-changing, pregnant. She'd suspected for 2 weeks but had been too terrified to confirm it. Now, holding the proof in her trembling hands, she felt joy and terror in equal measure. A baby, their baby, a child who would grow up in Dominic's world, surrounded by danger she couldn't fully protect them from. "Emma?" Dominic's voice came from the bedroom, thick with sleep. "You okay?" She opened the bathroom door. He was sitting up in bed, hair disheveled, concern etched across his features. Even half asleep, he was beautiful. And in that moment, looking at the man she'd chosen to build a life with, Emma's fear transformed into something else, hope. "I'm pregnant," she said simply. The words hung in the air between them. Dominic went completely still, his expression cycling through shock, fear, and then pure, radiant joy. "You're sure?" His voice cracked. Emma held up the test. 3 tests, all positive. He was out of bed in seconds, pulling her into his arms with a gentleness that made her cry. His hands trembled against her back, his breathing uneven. "We're having a baby," he whispered against her hair. "Emma, we're having a baby. Are you happy?" She pulled back to see his face. "Happy?" Dominic laughed, tears streaming down his cheeks. "I'm terrified. I'm overwhelmed. I have no idea how to be a father. But Emma, I'm happier than I've ever been in my entire life." They stood there in the pre-dawn darkness, holding each other, imagining the future that had just become real. Then Dominic's expression shifted, growing serious. "We need to increase security," he said. "Double the guards, upgrade the systems, make sure Dominic—" Emma put her hand over his mouth. "No, we're not doing this. We're not letting fear dictate how we raise this child. Emma, be reasonable. A baby makes us vulnerable. A baby makes us a family." She took his face in her hands. "And yes, we'll be smart about security. But we're not raising our child in a fortress, terrified of shadows. We're going to give them a normal life. As normal as we can manage. There's nothing normal about having Dominic Castellano as a father. Then we make a new normal. Together." Emma's voice was firm. "This child deserves better than growing up afraid. They deserve joy, freedom, and parents who trust each other to make the right choices. Can you give me that?" Dominic stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. "I can try. It's going to be the hardest thing I've ever done, but I can try." He placed his hand on her still flat stomach. "For you. For them. I'll try." The pregnancy was both easier and harder than Emma expected. Physically, she felt good. Nauseous in the mornings, exhausted by evening, but nothing she couldn't handle. Emotionally, watching Dominic struggle with his protective instincts was exhausting. He wanted her to stop working at the clinic. She refused. He wanted her to have a security detail follow her everywhere. She compromised on one discreet guard. He wanted to install panic buttons in every room of their house. She agreed, but only after pointing out that pregnant women had been having babies for millennia without military-grade security systems. "You're making me crazy," he said one evening, watching her climb a ladder to reach books on a high shelf in their home library. "I'm 5 months pregnant, not disabled." Emma grabbed the medical journal she needed. "And you're hovering. I'm concerned. You're suffocating." She climbed down carefully, saw his hands reaching to spot her, and swatted them away. "Dominic, I love not you, but if you don't give me space to exist as a human being instead of a fragile object to be protected, I'm moving back to my apartment until this baby is born." The threat worked. Dominic stepped back, hands raised in surrender. "I'm sorry. You're right. I'm being overprotective." He ran a hand through his hair. "It's just, every time I think about something happening to you or the baby, I can't breathe. The fear is paralyzing." Emma's frustration melted. She took his hand and placed it on her rounded stomach, where their daughter had been kicking all day. "Feel that?" she asked as the baby kicked against his palm. Dominic's eyes widened. "She's strong. She's a fighter. Just like her parents." Emma covered his hand with hers. "She's going to be fine, Dominic. We're all going to be fine. But you have to trust that. Trust me. Trust yourself. Trust that we can handle whatever comes. What if I can't protect you? What if something happens and I fail?" The raw vulnerability in his voice broke her heart. "Then we fail together. But we don't live in fear." Emma pulled him close. "Your father ruled through fear. You're going to be a father who rules through love. That's the difference. That's what makes you better than Vincent." Dominic held her for a long time, and Emma felt the moment his fear transformed into determination. Not to control, but to trust. The threat came from an unexpected direction. 6 months into Emma's pregnancy, Sophia burst into the clinic looking more rattled than Emma had ever seen her. "We have a problem. A big one." Emma looked up from charting patient notes. "What kind of problem?" "Vincent's brother. Dominic's uncle, Carlo Castellano. He's back in Chicago." Emma's blood ran cold. She knew about Carlo. Dominic had told her everything about his family history, including the uncle who'd disappeared to Italy 20 years ago after a failed power play against Vincent. Carlo had sworn revenge, but everyone assumed he'd died or given up. Apparently, they'd been wrong. "Where's Dominic?" Emma asked, already gathering her things. "At the house, coordinating with his team. He sent me to get you." Sophia's hand rested on her weapon. "Carlo knows about you, about the baby. He's making threats, Emma, serious ones." The drive back to Castellano House felt endless. Emma's mind raced with possibilities, each one worse than the last. She'd dealt with the Volkovs, with betrayal from within the organization. But this felt different, more personal. She found Dominic in the war room, surrounded by monitors and maps. His face was carved from ice, all emotion locked down into cold calculation. He sent this an hour ago. Dominic showed her a video on his phone. Carlo Castellano looked like an older, harder version of Dominic. Same dark eyes, same strong jaw, but twisted by decades of bitterness. He stood in what looked like an abandoned warehouse, speaking directly to the camera. "Nephew, you thought you could escape the reporter to Dispactis. Family legacy by playing businessman, by marrying some nurse and pretending to be legitimate." His smile was cruel. "But you're still Vincent's son, still a Castellano, and I'm here to remind you what that means. Your father stole everything from me. Now I'm taking everything from you, starting with that pregnant wife of yours." The video ended. Emma's hands instinctively went to her stomach, protecting the baby growing inside. "When did this arrive?" "An hour ago. We've been trying to trace the location, but he's using scramblers." Dominic's jaw was tight. "Emma, I need you to leave Chicago. Tonight. We have a safe house in Montana, completely off the grid. You'll be safe there until I handle this." "No, this isn't negotiable. You're right. It's not." Emma's voice was steel. "I'm not running, Dominic. Not from this, not from anything. We face this together. He threatened our baby." Dominic's control cracked. "He's going to try to hurt you to get to me. I can't. I won't let that happen. And I won't let you face your uncle alone." Emma took his face in her hands, forcing him to look at her. "Listen to me. Carlo wants you to send me away. He wants you isolated, emotional, making mistakes. The moment I leave, he wins. So we stay together, we stay smart, and we remind him that you're not Vincent's weak son. You're Dominic Castellano, and you've built something stronger than fear." Luca spoke up from across the room. "She's right, boss. Carlo's playing on your fears. Best defense is showing him those fears don't control you." Dominic looked at his team, then back at Emma. She could see the war inside him, the instinct to protect warring with the knowledge that she was right. "If we do this," he said finally, "you follow every security protocol. No arguments, no exceptions." "Agreed. But Dominic?" Emma's voice softened. "We end this quickly. I'm not raising our daughter with this hanging over us." "I'll handle it." The cold calculation was back in his eyes. "Carlo thinks he's coming for a businessman. He's about to remember I'm Vincent Castellano's son. And when I need to be, I'm every bit as dangerous as my father was." Section 11. The final confrontation. Carlo made his move 3 days later. The trap was elegant. A fire at one of Dominic's community centers in Austin, dozens of families in danger, children screaming. Every instinct Dominic had built his new empire on demanded he respond immediately, put himself in danger to save innocent people. It was exactly what Carlo wanted. "It's a distraction," Sophia said, monitoring feeds from the center. "The fire department's already there. Everyone's getting out safely. But look." She pulled up another feed. "Carlo's men are positioned around the perimeter. They're waiting for you. Then I won't disappoint them." Dominic checked his weapon with practiced efficiency. "You're walking into an ambush," Luca protested. "No, I'm walking into an ending." Dominic's voice was calm. "Carlo wants a confrontation? He'll get one, but on my terms, not his." Emma watched all of this from her position at the security monitors, her heart hammering. She wanted to protest, to demand Dominic stay safe, but she understood. This had to end. Their daughter deserved to be born into peace, not perpetual threat. "What's the plan?" she asked. Dominic turned to her, and for a moment, his mask slipped. She saw the fear beneath, the terror of leaving her, of never meeting their daughter. Then it was gone, replaced by determination. "Carlo thinks I'm soft. That building legitimate businesses, starting families, caring about people makes me weak." He crossed to Emma, kissed her forehead. "I'm going to remind him that choosing not to be a monster doesn't mean I've forgotten how. It just means I'm more dangerous because I have something worth protecting." "How many men are you taking?" "None." Dominic's smile was sharp. "Carlo wants to see me alone? I'll give him that gift. But I won't be unprepared." He pulled out his phone, made 3 calls in rapid Italian. Emma didn't understand all the words, but she understood the tone. This was Dominic Castellano activating resources she'd never seen, calling in favors from a world she'd only glimpsed. The feds? She asked when he hung up. Among others. Carlo's been back in the country for 3 weeks. In that time, he's violated about 15 federal laws and 3 international treaties. I've just made sure the evidence lands in the right hands at exactly the right time. He checked his watch. He'll be arrested within the hour. But first, I need to face him. End this personally. Dominic, I have to, Emma. He threatened you. Threatened our daughter. If I don't face him, if I let the feds just take him, I'll always wonder if I did enough to protect you. His hand found her stomach, feeling their daughter kick. I need to know I stood between my family and danger. That I was strong enough. Emma understood. This wasn't about machismo or revenge. This was about a man who'd lost his mother because his father chose power over protection, proving he was different, that he could be both dangerous and good, powerful and loving. Then go, she said quietly. But you come back to us. That's not negotiable. Always. He kissed her, long and deep. I love you, Emma Chen Castellano. You and our daughter are my entire world. We love you too. Now go finish this so we can have a normal life. Dominic laughed. There's nothing normal about us. Then we'll make extraordinary work. The community center was surrounded by fire trucks and police when Dominic arrived. Families huddled on the sidewalk, children crying, parents traumatized but safe. The fire was almost out, more smoke than flames, staged perfectly to draw him here. Carlo waited inside the building, in what had been the medical clinic Emma designed. The symbolism wasn't subtle. He stood among examination tables and equipment purchased with Dominic's money, destroying the legitimate world Dominic had built. Nephew. Carlo's voice echoed in the empty space. You actually came alone. I'm impressed. You threatened my wife, my unborn child. Dominic moved slowly, hands visible, unthreatening. What did you think I'd do? I thought you'd send your army. Thought you'd hide behind money and lawyers like you always do. Carlo circled him. But here you are, Vincent's son after all. I'm nothing like Vincent. Aren't you? Carlo gestured around them. You control territory through businesses instead of violence, influence politicians with donations instead of blackmail. But you still control, still manipulate, still destroy anyone who threatens your power. The methods are different, nephew. The nature is the same. The nature is completely different. Dominic's voice was steady. Vincent destroyed people for profit. I build opportunities for second chances. Vincent ruled through fear. I lead through respect. And Vincent died alone in a prison cell, hated by everyone, including his own son. I'm going to die old, surrounded by family who actually love me. That's the difference. Pretty speech. Did the nurse teach you that? Carlo's hand moved toward his jacket. Don't. Dominic's weapon appeared faster than thought. I don't want to kill you, uncle, but I will protect my family. There it is. Carlo smiled. The violence. The Castellano rage. You can dress it up in morality and second chances, but you're still capable of murder. Just like Vincent. Just like me. Yes, I'm capable. Dominic's aim never wavered. But choosing not to kill when I could? That's what makes me different. Vincent would have shot you the moment you threatened his family. I'm giving you a choice. Walk away. Leave Chicago. Disappear back to Italy. I'll even give you money to start over. Just leave my family alone. Carlo laughed. You think I want your charity? I want your empire. Your respect. Everything Vincent stole from me. Vincent didn't steal anything. You tried to take over through betrayal. And you failed. Then you ran instead of facing the consequences. Dominic lowered his weapon slightly. Carlo, you're my blood. My uncle. When I was a kid, before the power struggle, you taught me to ride a bike, took me to baseball games. I don't want to hurt you, but I will end you if you threaten Emma or our child again. For a moment, something flickered in Carlo's eyes. Regret, maybe. Recognition of the boy he'd once cared about. Then it hardened back into bitterness. You're weak, just like your mother. She made Vincent weak, too. Made him care about something other than power. That's why I had to... He stopped, realizing what he'd almost said. Dominic went very still. What did you just say? Nothing. I said nothing. You said my mother made Vincent weak, that you had to. Dominic's voice was deadly quiet. My mother died of cancer. The doctors said it was aggressive, untreatable. The doctors said what I paid them to say. Carlo's mask slipped completely. Your mother was convincing Vincent to go legitimate, to turn over evidence to the FBI in exchange for immunity, She was going to destroy everything the Castellanos built. I couldn't let that happen. The truth hit Dominic like a physical blow. You killed her. You poisoned my mother. I saved the family. Carlo's composure shattered. Vincent was weak when she was alive. After she died, he became strong again. Ruthless. Everything a Castellano should be. You murdered her. Dominic's hand shook on his weapon. I was 8 years old, and you killed my mother to preserve your brother's criminal empire. Emma, watching through the security feed Sophia had secretly installed in the building, saw the moment Dominic's control fractured, saw the rage and grief of a lifetime converge into a single moment of choice. Kill him, Carlo taunted. Prove you're Vincent's son. Prove. You're a real Castellano. Dominic raised his weapon. His finger tightened on the trigger. One shot, and the man who'd murdered his mother would be dead. Justice. Revenge. Ending decades of pain. But then he lowered the gun. No, Dominic said quietly. You don't get to make me into Vincent. You don't get to prove I'm like you. He pulled out his phone, pressed send on a pre-written text. FBI will be here in 90 seconds. You just confessed to murder on camera. Multiple cameras, actually. You'll spend the rest of your life in prison. That's justice, Uncle, not vengeance. Carlo's face went white. You recorded this? Every word, including your confession about my mother's murder. Dominic's smile was cold. I told you I'm not Vincent. I'm better. I win without becoming a monster. Sirens approached outside. Carlo lunged for Dominic, desperate, and Dominic sidestepped easily. One precise strike to the temple, and Carlo dropped, unconscious but alive. FBI agents swarmed the building 60 seconds later. Dominic handed over the recording, gave a statement, and walked out a free man while his uncle was carried away in handcuffs. He climbed into his car where Emma waited, having raced there the moment she knew it was safe. She pulled him into her arms, feeling him shake with reaction. You did it, she whispered. You chose to be better. I wanted to kill him. Dominic's voice was raw. God, Emma. I wanted to put a bullet in his head for what he did to my mother. The rage was consuming. But you didn't. That's what matters. She held him tighter. You chose justice over revenge. Your mother would be so proud of you. They sat there in the car while police processed the scene, holding each other, processing the end of a vendetta that had haunted Dominic's entire life. It's over, he said finally. Really over. Carlo will never threaten us again. The last piece of Vincent's legacy is finally gone. Not gone, Emma corrected. Transformed. You took your father's empire and made it something beautiful. That's not erasing his legacy. That's redeeming it. Section 12. The beginning. 3 months later, Isabella Rose Castellano was born at 4 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. 8 pounds, 6 ounces, with dark hair like her father and determined eyes like her mother. Dominic held her for the first time with shaking hands, tears streaming down his face. She's perfect, he whispered. Emma, she's absolutely perfect. She is, Emma agreed, exhausted and radiant. Our miracle. Rosa burst into the hospital room moments later, followed by Sophia, Luca, and half of Dominic's inner circle. They cooed over the baby, arguing about who she looked like, making promises to spoil her relentlessly. She's going to be so loved, Rosa said, wiping away happy tears. So protected. So free, Emma added firmly. Free to choose her own path. Free to be whoever she wants to be. Dominic looked at his daughter, then at his wife, then at the family. They'd built from broken pieces and second chances. Isabella Rose, he said softly, you're going to grow up in a different world than I did. You'll know safety without fear, love without control, power without violence. He kissed her tiny forehead. I'm going to spend every day of my life making sure you never have to choose between being good and surviving. You get to be both. The baby yawned, tiny fist curling around Dominic's finger, and Emma's heart swelled with love so vast it felt impossible to contain. This was their new beginning, built on the foundation of a 17-year-old girl who'd saved a dying boy 15 years ago, who'd believed in redemption when everyone else saw only a criminal. 2 weeks later, they brought Isabella home to Castellano House. But it wasn't a fortress anymore. The guards were discreet, the security invisible. What had once been a symbol of power and fear had transformed into a home filled with laughter, love, and the bright future of a child who would never know her grandfather's darkness. Emma stood in the nursery Rosa had decorated with clouds and stars, holding Isabella while Dominic assembled furniture with more enthusiasm than skill. I think this is upside down, he muttered, staring at the crib instructions. Definitely upside down, Emma agreed, trying not to laugh. I built a criminal empire. I should be able to assemble baby furniture. Different skill sets, love. He looked up at her, frustration melting into adoration. Have I told you today that I love you? Only 3 times. You're slipping. I love you. He stood, crossing to her and their daughter. I love you so much it terrifies me sometimes. You took a broken man and showed him how to be whole. You gave me a family, a purpose, a life worth living. We gave each other that, Emma corrected. You showed me I was strong enough to set boundaries, brave enough to demand respect, worthy of being loved without being controlled. We saved each other, Dominic. He kissed her softly, mindful of the baby between them. Best decision I ever made was getting shot in that alley. That's a terrible way to phrase it, but accurate. He grinned. Second time was the charm. Isabella chose that moment to wake up, her tiny cry filling the nursery. Dominic took her from Emma, rocking her gently, humming something in Italian his mother had sung to him. Emma watched her husband, this dangerous man who'd become gentle, this criminal who'd chosen redemption, this damaged soul who'd learned to love, and felt grateful for every impossible choice that had led them here. She's going to change the world, Emma said softly. She already has, Dominic replied. She changed mine. Epilogue. 5 years later. Isabella Rose Castellano was 5 years old. Fearless, brilliant, and completely convinced she could do anything. She had her father's determination and her mother's compassion, a combination that made her unstoppable. Emma watched her daughter play in the garden of Castellano House, chasing butterflies with the single-minded focus she brought to everything. Beside her, Dominic held their son, 3-year-old Marcus Vincent Castellano, who'd inherited his mother's calm steadiness and his father's strategic mind. She's going to be president someday, Dominic said, watching Isabella organize the other children at her birthday party with impressive authority. Or run the world's largest hospital, Emma added. She's been saying she wants to be a doctor like Mommy. God help the medical establishment. But Dominic was smiling. The past 5 years had brought changes neither could have imagined. The Castellano organization was now almost entirely legitimate. Real estate, restaurants, medical clinics, community programs. Dominic still consulted for his old contacts, still maintained power in Chicago, but it was clean power. Influence earned through good works, not violence. Emma ran 3 medical centers now, employing hundreds, serving thousands. She'd published papers on community healthcare, spoken at conferences, and never stopped being amazed that the scared nurse drowning in debt had become this person. Mama! Isabella ran over, breathless and joyful. Marcus wants cake, but it's not time yet. Tell him. The cake comes after dinner, sweetheart, Emma said patiently. See? Isabella fixed her little brother with a stern look. Rules, Marcus. We follow rules. She's very firm on rules, Dominic observed. Wonder where she gets that from. Emma raised an eyebrow at her husband. Absolutely no idea. He grinned. As the sun set over their garden, over their family, over the life they'd built from impossible circumstances, Emma felt complete. Not perfect. They still argued about security measures and Dominic still struggled with his protective instincts, but complete. Do you ever regret it? Dominic asked quietly, watching their children play. Saving me that night, if you'd known where it would lead? Emma took his free hand, lacing their fingers together. Not for a single second. You were worth saving, Dominic. You're still worth saving every day. Even when I'm being overprotective and controlling? Especially then. Because it means you care. She leaned her head on his shoulder. We're good together. Broken pieces that fit perfectly. The best things are built from broken pieces, Dominic agreed. They're stronger for having survived being shattered. Isabella ran back over, tugging on Emma's dress. Mama, tell Daddy he has to dance with me. It's my birthday and he promised. Your father promised? Emma looked at Dominic, amused. I may have said something about dancing, he admitted, in a moment of weakness. No take-backs. Isabella grabbed his hand, pulling him toward where music played. You promised. Emma watched her husband, this powerful man who commanded respect across Chicago, let his 5-year-old daughter drag him to dance, watched, and him twirl her around while she giggled, pure joy on both their faces. Sophia appeared beside Emma, Marcus in her arms now. They're good together. They are. Emma smiled. He's a good father. He learned from the best teacher. Sophia's expression was warm. You taught him how to love without fear. That's no small thing. He taught me too. How to be strong without being hard. How to demand respect while staying compassionate. Emma took Marcus back, kissing his chubby cheek. We taught each other. The party continued into evening. Friends from the hospital mixed with Dominic's business associates, all of them celebrating without fully understanding the journey that had brought this family together. But Emma and Dominic understood. Later, after the guests had left, and the children were finally asleep, exhausted from excitement, Emma and Dominic sat on their patio overlooking Lake Michigan. 15 years, Emma said quietly. Since that night in Chinatown. Since I found you, bleeding in an alley. 15 years since an angel decided I was worth saving. Dominic pulled her close. Best 15 years of my life. The next 15 will be even better. How can you be sure? Because we'll be together. And together, we can handle anything. Emma kissed him softly. That's what you taught me. That love isn't about one person protecting the other. It's about two people being strong enough to face the world side by side. Partners, Dominic said. Always partners. They sat there as stars appeared over the lake, over the city where they'd found each other, lost each other, and found each other again. Two people who'd learned that redemption wasn't a destination but a daily choice. That love meant respecting freedom, not restricting it. That the best legacies were built not on power or fear, but on second chances and stubborn hope. Emma Chen had saved Dominic Castellano's life twice, 15 years apart, but the truth was simpler and more beautiful than that. They'd saved each other, and they'd spend the rest of their lives being grateful for that impossible, transformative gift. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.